What up, people? You are listening to your favorite local podcast, the Atlanta Podcast, with me, Christian,
Justin,
and Myron.
And we're talking about stuff going on in and around Atlanta. We are recording on Monday, May 2nd, 2022, in the Upper Room.
The Upper Room.
We have a very special guest today on the podcast. Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, the big CMO of your Atlanta Hawks and State Farm Arena. We have the creative, the visionary, the trailblazer, and best-selling author, Melissa M. Proctor.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you. Thank you.
We need to do like...
you did it. You did it.
Atlanta Hawks!
Now, before we get into it, we like to crack open a local beer to enjoy and discuss with our jack of all drafts, Myron. So, Myron, what we got on tap?
I don't know what y'all niggas drinking, but...
That's fucked up.
Yeah, what's that about?
Man. No,
Let me get my beer.
Right?
you don't pour. No. So, no, we got, of course, we say local here. We're doing the, one of their variants of a mainstay from Three Taverns. You know, they have their Night on Ponce IPA. This is a Tango on Ponce. It has a little orange in it.
Yeah, okay.
Three Taverns, you know, they're in Decatur. And in, what is it called now? The Atlanta Dairies. They have their second location there.
Yeah.
Memorial Drive.
I was like, are they building milk farms
It's
over
like
there?
the dairy?
When I first heard Dairies, I was like, wait a minute.
Man, they just be making up neighborhoods
can't be.
now, man.
Can't be.
Yeah.
I was very confused.
Every time they gentrify one, they come up with a name.
And then when I went to see where it was, I was like, wait a minute, this is Memorial. What are we talking about?
What you talking about the dairy?
Where the milk at?
I found a great property in the dairies. What? The dairies? What are you talking
Bro,
about?
have y'all seen the prices of these houses? Glenwood. We all know Glenwood.
Yeah. My grandmother stays over there.
Old school Glenwood. I saw a townhouse that was $975,000.
Jesus Christ.
Glenwood, fam.
USD?
Bro. My wife and I were driving back, and I was like,
It was pesos?
I was driving. I was like, oh, well, like, what are these? You know, how much are these? She was like, $975. I was like,
975 what?
I was like,
Wait, it was a townhouse?
yes, sir.
It's connected to
Connected.
another townhouse?
Correct. For $975,000.
So you get both of them?
$1,000. A little less than $1 million.
You get them both?
You hardly get the one. I think you get one parking space.
Thank you, sir.
I think you get one parking space.
Ooh.
For $1 million, bro.
Atlanta's wild.
That color.
Glenwood.
Bro.
If you-
Glenwood ain't what it used to
If
be,
you
I
had
guess.
said Midtown, I'm like, oh, well, yeah. There's some $1
Glenwood ain't what
million
it
joints in
used to be.
Midtown. Glenwood, I was like, what is
Do
going on?
you want to try?
No, she don't drink
thanks.
beer. Leave it alone.
No.
I have a wonderful cocktail here with rose water.
Dang.
It's fabulous.
It looks delicious.
It really is.
I bet. What kind of glass is that called?
Coupe.
Oh, okay.
Coupe
On the
glass.
coupe glass.
What kind of glass is mine called?
I dig you going to drink what you drink. Right? But as for the other drinks that are on the table, of course, we only drink local. We got the vodka from ASW Distillery,
Shout out.
Bussletown. I had to look at this again because that was like, is that
what it's called?
Is that a bus? I was like,
I thought it was Bussitdown. When I saw it, I said, huh?
that would be an Atlanta name though.
I thought it was.
Busitdown Vodka
Bussitdown.
You should create that.
from the subsidiaries of Schlitz Malt Liquor.
Bust it down.
They would probably sell a little more.
Your mama's favorite drink.
Oh!
I think the Migos would I think they go for that.
All right.
Ooh, we need to bring that up with Jay Carter. Maybe have it at the One Music Down Fest. On Bussitdown Vodka.
That might,
Maybe.
yeah.
Anyway,
I'll write it up.
shout out to Three Taverns. It is very
I do like
crisp
this.
and delicious. Yeah. What do you
I mean,
think?
it couldn't, I was
Couldn't compare to your cocktail?
downgrading, so
Anyway, all right. Now, it's about that time we play Guess the Race. I forgot to ask if you were okay with playing Guess the Race.
I'm good with it.
You sure? Okay.
Okay.
We gonna guess.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We just guessing?
You know what I'm saying?
We just guessing, baby.
What if it's like a player
No.
If that was the case, they would no longer be on the team.
Oh,
If that was the case,
don't do it.
All right.
you could bring up Thabo. You know, he's not on the team anymore. So
There you go. We
like
normally like
Taco.
to kick off conversation with a friendly game called Guess the Race. I will read a Georgia crime story, and you, the listeners, along with Justin, Myron, and Melissa, will
go.
guess the race of the culprit without being provided the name or exact area where the crime took place. Y'all ready?
white.
What?
I just felt the privilege in your tone. I just knew.
Is that what it was?
That's what it was. But yeah, go ahead.
So for this one, I'm going to give you areas because it covers multiple areas, and it would be confusing if I left it out.
Okay.
So, reported by the WSBTV.com news staff.
He's trying to trick us, man.
I know he is.
How is this? Okay.
shady.
It's because we're
shit.
so good at this.
Batting 1,000, fam.
I hate these.
A driver in a box truck led police on a wild 30-minute chase that stretched from Coweta County into Atlanta.
Coweta, bruh.
According to the
Clue
sheriff's
number one.
office, a deputy saw a white Penske truck run a red light while driving on Georgia 154.
Clue number 2.
When the deputy attempted to stop the truck, it accelerated and went north on I-85.
How fast can a Penske truck accelerate?
They all have governors
and
on
Furious.
it.
It's a
one.
box truck. You
Right.
can't
They
have
have-
a box truck?
They have governors
You're the
on it.
police. This is ridiculous. He's white, bro.
The truck...
Right.
He's white. They're like,
the
hold up, we
truck-
got to take our time with this guy.
the
careful.
God damn. The truck changed lanes, and items were thrown out of the window as deputies pursued. A second deputy pulled in front of the truck to try to slow it down, and the truck nearly hit the deputy's car while swerving around it. The truck briefly stopped on the interstate near Flat Shoals to let a woman out, who fell to the ground. Deputies stopped to arrest the woman, and she was wanted on traffic-related warrants out of Gwinnett County.
Clearly traffic related.
The chase continued up I-85 despite several pit maneuver attempts, pit meaning pursuit intervention technique,
Someone hit the bumper.
near Camp Creek Parkway. 2 more men got out and ran into an apartment complex.
Wow. You started in Coweta.
It's getting blacker and blacker. Every time they drop somebody off, it's Flat Shoals,
It's-
Camp Creek. What's going
It's like a gradient. It was like a gradient, an ombre of crime.
on?
They ran into the apartment.
The apartments. That's what we do, bro. They ain't gonna catch us if we go to the apartments.
One of the men was arrested. The other has not been found. The chase continued into Atlanta. After about 30 minutes, the driver got out around Woodland Ave. The truck rolled into a tree while deputies took the driver into custody. He was transported to Grady Hospital for evaluation. The driver was driving on a suspended license. And he...
Damn.
What?
So who got the truck if he got suspended license?
Rolled into the tree.
You know what? You know what happened? Why it started in Coweta, they thought about it like for a split second. They were like, if we rent the Penske outside of our area, we're gonna do the shit.
Oh, so you're saying
Then-
they're not from that area.
Right.
So then they was like, yo, drop me off at the house. When the
Right. Hey, let me roll out right quick. Split up.
He had several warrants, including felony escape from a work detail out of Gwinnett County. Deputies said they smelled marijuana coming from the truck. So the driver faces multiple charges, including fleeing from police, reckless driving, and possession of marijuana. Guess the race of the Penske truck driver.
Now that last one shouldn't count.
The
It
possession of
shouldn't.
marijuana.
Yeah, man, that's bullshit, man. But I mean, we in the Bible Belt. I understand. It ain't changed here
Charge is
yet.
charge.
Wait, how
That
much
is true.
did they say how much they found? Was it like a whole bunch of weed in the back?
I don't know.
Well, possession, that depends on possession is just, you can just have
if
it.
they see a
If
lot,
it's over amount, then they'll charge you with like trafficking, even though you're not selling it, but it's the amount that changed the charge.
This amount is for selling.
Not that I know.
Just make that as
Not that I know.
It depends how much you get on their nerves. That's selling weed.
Exactly.
Hold up.
It's like a roach.
Did they say what was in the back of the truck?
Nope.
Well, they threw it out on 85.
Few items.
Right,
Yeah,
few.
few items.
Yeah, she was out on flat shows, right? They dropped her off at flat shows.
Yeah.
Dang.
That show was Camp Creek.
They said
Camp
they
Creek.
dropped her off and she sustained injury, so they just opened the door and was like,
Combat roll. Wop, wop, wop.
We trained for this. Go ahead.
"Are they all the same race?
Now, that's the trick.
They're all the same race." Okay, that's okay.
Oh. Because I thought it was going to be like, you know, a little crew.
I would
like,
never do that to you guys.
You are a liar. But that's
They're all
fine.
the same. This was a terrible plan.
It was. It was.
What are you trying to say? What does that mean?
No, I mean, it's just a statement of fact.
Okay. Just
And
making
they,
sure.
Or terrible execution.
they did the crime high too.
Possibly.
If you're gonna do your crime, you probably should be sober, right? So you can execute it right.
Execute it? What? Oh, to execute the plan. Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, execute it? Yeah, they're not going to kill them for that.
Some people need it so they can go through with it.
Right, your nerves.
Mom spaghetti.
But I'm going to go black.
Hey, they black, bro.
Oh.
Flat shows, then Camp Creek,
I started out with a different thought process.
then Atlanta.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was like, no, you know, they could be a person of color, but maybe not black.
I was thinking that.
Fair.
No, that's kind of where I started. But by the time we got,
Too old. What was the last stop?
The color got darker and darker in my head.
Atlanta, went from Camp Creek to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last
What
stop
was
was
the Camp Creek Parkway? That's when the two men got out.
Oh, but then the
Went to Atlanta,
driver.
Woodland Ave.
And
Woodland
the
Ave.
apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Camp
too.
Creek into the apartments.
I'm really thinking they thought they could get the Penske truck outside of, way outside of, metro area and then try to do some shit. But
Did they say the age? Could we get the age?
No age.
All right.
these niggas in their 20s.
I think they might be African Americans, bro.
Okay. Same?
Yeah.
Okay. The name of the culprit,
Oh god.
Wait, hold on, wait.
Bro.
You gonna go Mexican, ain't you?
No,
You gonna say
I wasn't.
Latino?
I was low key thinking that.
That's where I was going with people.
That's why I was
Yeah.
saying.
Like, that's where I started.
Ooh.
Then it evolved.
Yeah,
I would say if you want to go that route, it's Hispanic. Just say Hispanic to just cover all your bases.
right. Or well, I mean Latinx would.
Or that.
That's
sure.
the super umbrella now.
Okay.
I think that's the PC answer now. Mm-hmm. Nah, I'm gonna stick with black.
I think they black as fuck.
That Camp Creek
That's
in
what
the in
it is
apartments.
They
now.
went
Okay.
to the
Yeah.
apartments, bro.
Camp Creek in apartments, man. Like,
So are we done, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
got
go
it
ahead.
Black.
We done.
Go
It's
ahead.
locked in.
Yeah.
The name is Geraldo Hernandez.
That was the first one I like.
It was right there.
We had it. We was all thinking it at first. It's like, God, that's
Geraldo
because
Hernandez
it's the Coweta,
Morales.
and then Gwinnett.
Because
A lot of Gwinnett.
That
Oh,
was
it's
the
so
Camp
Genesis.
Creek do it all.
That's what I'm saying.
Man, let
Like,
me see what he looked like. Do he look like a baseball player?
right?
Do he look like
Is he Dominican?
a soccer player?
I don't have
Right.
a picture, but like all of their names were Hispanics.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah, they were getting it.
Oh, that's our first loss, bro.
basically,
That's the first one this
Okay.
whole
Ever.
year.
Okay. Now,
I'll take that. That was tough though, man. That was like a 3-part. That was a lot.
what?
congratulations, you lost. I don't know what you want from me.
You see?
I
This
want
is
a
why-
cocktail, but shit. Clearly.
All right. Now, Melissa M. Proctor.
Oh, go ahead.
Now it's time to put the spotlight on you and hear your origin story. So, let's start with where are you from?
I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
Hey.
Yep, 305, and was there through college, and then went to Wake Forest in North Carolina for undergrad, and then found my way to Atlanta from 02 till forever.
Okay. How did you get into? Can I ask? How did you get into basketball?
Sure.
Okay.
I never played.
Never played.
Everyone swears I played ball somewhere. Like, oh, you went to college for that? Never.
People swear I played ball too.
Really? I can understand. I understand. I was always an artist. So growing up, it was drawing, painting. I was really into visual arts. And my mom was from Belize and my dad was from Jamaica. And so every summer I would go to either Belize or Jamaica. Totally native, no resorts, nothing fancy.
Nice.
Right.
But it just kind of inspired this like art and creativity in me. And I went to like middle school for fine arts, went to high school in Miami for fine arts. And when I was like 15, I had a cousin who loved watching the Miami Heat on TV.
Of course.
My parents aren't American, so I knew nothing of American sports. My dad was a big wrestling fan. He's probably home watching wrestling right now, but he would watch the Ladies of Glow.
Wow, really?
Growing up as a kid, I would watch the Ladies of Glow. Like, okay, all right, cool.
You never wanted to jump off the top?
No, never. No Macho Man, Randy Savage. Like I was into it. But my cousin was like, "Hey, you ever watch basketball?" And I was like, "No football, no basketball. Never went to school with athletics because I was always doing art." So I would watch the Heat with her on TV. And I didn't understand the game, so she explained it to me, and I loved it. Like I just got into it as like good television, and it was like the Jordan era. So like I saw The Last Dance, and I was like, Rodman, like that was life. And so when I was 15, I remember talking to my mom about wanting to get a job, and she's like, "All right, Mel, you can get a job as long as it's in whatever you want to do for the rest of your life." And which is odd.
Ooh, that's great advice.
It's so odd. How do you know
15?
at 15 years old? And at 15, I knew a lot of the people that had graduated from my school were going to like Pratt and FIT and Parsons, all these art schools, but a lot of them were like struggling artists. And I knew that I did not want to be that. And so I was like, you know what, Mom? I'm going to be the first female coach in the NBA.
Hey.
Oh.
And she was like...
Record scratch.
Yeah, she was like... First of all, she didn't know what NBA stood for. She was like, okay, go get a job in the NBA. And I was like, okay. And then that was it. Like, literally, she laid down the gauntlet and left me no option. And so I started writing letters to the Miami Heat. I got the yellow pages, found probably a 1-800 number, made phone calls. I got finally someone in community relations. They were like, we have nothing for you. You're like 15 years old. Tried the equipment manager. And so I got connected with him. I wrote him letters, and I would draw on the envelopes of everything that I wrote.
15?
15.
This is adorable.
This is like pre-email. Like there's no other way to connect, and I'm calling you, you're not answering. Like I can't show up at the office. So I drew, and like I kept calling, and one day I got in touch with the equipment manager, and he was like, I don't know what you would do. I only have boys. Like I only have ball boys. And I was like, well, I'll do that too. And he was like, women can't get in the locker room. Because back then, women were not allowed in the locker room. There were no female referees. It was a very different time.
It was Jay Sable?
Yeah, Jay Sable, who was like my homie. And he was so discouraging. He was like, you don't want this job. Like, it's mopping up sweat and folding towels. And
I read he said he looked like when you got connected to him, he was like, stop calling.
He did. He's like, if you call me one more time, I'm not going to hire you.
Quit playing on my phone.
Yeah. And then I stopped, and then I kept calling him.
I'm
And
going to say, how many times did you call for him to be
God.
like, yo, connected through? Stop calling.
I don't know. I definitely blew up his phone. And like, we didn't have like cell phones back then. So like, I was probably going to like the guidance counselor's office at school, like trying to call in the daytime.
That's good. That's
It's random now that I think about it. Like, yeah, I was really hustling and didn't even know. And one day he was like, you know what, kid, like you got a lot of heart. Just come to a game. And I had never been to the arena before for a basketball game.
Oh, wow.
Then the Miami arena. Had no clue what the work was. Didn't know how to rebound. I never played, y'all.
Oh, wow.
So he was like...
You must have been like very wide-eyed.
I was.
Oh, my God.
I remember I went to the Miami arena. I walked in, and it was like television came to life because it was like the lights, the everything, the court. It was like bigger than I thought it would be. And he gave me an outfit. It was like a free champion outfit or something back then. And sneakers, and I got big feet. I wear like size 11 in women. So like, y'all got my size.
They're like, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, everybody has big feet.
And I went, and he was like, all right, well, we'll try this out. Go rebound. And I was like, okay. Literally. It was me under the basket looking up. Like,
it falls right here, right?
yeah, no, not at all. It was like a player layup line. I got knocked out, had a busted lip. Like, it was a whole situation.
Who busted your lip? Do you
I don't
remember?
remember who it was.
Alonzo
but it
Mourning
was
came
probably-
down.
You got knocked out?
No, I didn't get knocked out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I fell.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. She's like,
And at the end of the night, like, they don't pay. So I found it was kind of like a volunteer job where you work for tips. So the visiting team's equipment manager will give like some cash to the home team's manager for all the ball kids. So if we do a good job that night, it's great. But like, say a player slips and falls or someone doesn't carry something they're supposed to, then no one may get tipped.
So that was based on just the visiting team's charity, basically.
Pretty much.
Nothing. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
I did not know that.
And so, because we would do laundry sometime for the visiting team, or like, at the end of the night, we would like wash all the towels and uniforms, had to hang uniforms up in the locker room for them to dry. Like, we'd make mops out of towels and like long brooms. It was a very different world.
Sounds awful.
Have you watched, was it Winning Time on Net?
Yes.
No, HBO Max?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's really
I
good.
know.
It's really good. But
I
it
gotta
kind of
find
reminded me of like the throwback nature of how like Wild Wild Westy things were. Like now things are so much more
Put together.
Yeah, like they got sponsors on the mops and stuff now. Like then it was, here's some tape and a towel, like good luck.
Yeah.
But it was my first game. Yeah, it was making mops. It was my first game and like I loved it. And he was like, you did a great job, come back. And there was a young man named James who was a ball boy for the Heat too. He was doing it for years, but this was in Overtown, Liberty City, like in the heart of the hood in Miami.
Yeah.
And I want to say he had sickle cell or something. He was always sick, but he had a gold tooth and he showed me the ropes. Like he was like, hey, you want to get this tip? Take that player's bag and walk it to the parking lot. And I was like, okay. So he was like, hey, he may want that girl's number, so you can go over there. And I was like, wow, you all like, this is what happens. But he knew like inside everything.
But you know what? I bet you that was a different dynamic since they said they only had boys before him. You could approach the females at a different level.
That was absolutely the case. But it was such an interesting thing for me. And when I started, after the first couple games, the team owner's kids one was a ball boy, Nick Harrison, who's now the head of the team. Yep. And his sister would sit on the sidelines and watch him be a ball boy. And so when I started, she was like, I want to do that too. So she ended up being a ball girl on the court with me for that first season.
Blazing trails early.
Yeah, we were the first women on the court for the Heat. And so they did a little story on us in the Heat magazine. And it was like it's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life, even to this day. Because
Working for free.
For real. And getting to sit courtside for these amazing like Knicks Heat matchups and Bulls. Like it was so phenomenal. But like I was telling someone the other day, behind me, it was Miami. So back then it was like Rosie O'Donnell would sit behind me one game. One game it was Jimmy Buffett. A bunch of games. Jimmy Buffett had courtsides. I didn't know who Jimmy Buffett was.
Margaritaville.
Yeah. Had no idea. And so people kept asking him for autographs. And he and I like built a rep. I was like, him and his daughter. And I was like, who are you?
I was like, who's this old white man? He put Hawaiian shirts on.
He did.
Cheeseburger in paradise. What the fuck?
No idea. And so somebody took a picture of us. He signed it. I still have the sign. He's like, to Eminem, the best seat in the house. And I was like, okay. And so he had like a live, like a Broadway show kind of thing. And he brought it to Miami. So he gave me and my mom tickets. And we went. Dope. And I was like, hey, that's not a white man. Okay. Yeah. I was like, no idea. But there were so many of those experiences. Like Magic Johnson would come and say, like, it was so cool. But to have that experience at 15, 16 years old.
That's ridiculous.
And what I appreciated probably most about it was that it was so, like, it didn't matter who you are, a billionaire or the janitorial staff in the building, security, but like getting to talk to everybody, the owners of the team, and treating everybody the same, with respect. And now so much of that is like definitely what my day-to-day work life is today.
You're like at an intersection where all these classes.
Everybody
like
comes together.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So I'm assuming you met or did you meet Eric Spoelstra when his video days?
Yeah, he was a tape guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was he was a tape guy. 100%. That's why every time I watched the winning, you didn't see it. You got to watch it. It blew my mind. So I'm like, that's Pat Riley.
Pat Riley's just trying to get a job.
Yes. And then actually it was around, I was watching at the same time we were in our last series with the Heat. So the Heat came to Atlanta and I was walking and Pat passed by me and I was like, oh my God. Like I've seen him a bunch of times, but because of, I was like, I had no idea. Oh my gosh.
One of the
Blew my
most
mind.
winningest coaches.
Blew my mind.
Do you have like a story that always sticks out to you from those years?
Man, probably two. One was people always ask, like, the sweatiest player in the NBA ever was like...
Oh, because you had to mop.
Because we had to mop up the sweat. And normally it was at timeouts. So, like, timeouts, everyone's sitting... No, sorry, not timeouts. When they're doing free throws. So everyone's at the line, like, hunched over.
Just
Patrick Ewing.
Oh, yes.
Was the sweatiest player in the entire... Like it was buckets.
Well, that's why he had
the wristband. Yes, always. He would always.
What kind of Gatorade is he drinking?
I don't know. But I remember so vividly, like, we'd be like, oh, Patrick's at the line. And so we would have to get our little towel.
Double up.
Yeah, well, the towel was already made. So you had to be under like 3 times to flip it. And he would flip it and keep going. And so one time, Patrick was on the line. And I had to run around. They were doing free throws, so I had to run around the key and come back. And I was there, and where he was standing was still wet, so I had to keep going and flipping and going, and my mop broke because I was so... And so I had like 2 pieces, so I had like... Kurt Thomas used to play for the Heat, and he went to the Knicks. So I was in front of the Knicks bench, and Kurt knows me. He was laughing at me. So I look up, and he was like, ah! And then the play started coming back. So I had like to not end up on ESPN. Like I had to pick up both pieces and run off.
Oh my goodness!
I would never forget it because I was like... heartbeat out of chest, like I'm about to die right now because these players are gonna come.
Wow.
Someone had an unexpected turnover. Oh shit!
And I was like, I hope it's not slippery because then I would lose my job.
Yeah.
So if they slip, well, I mean it happens, but normally people get out there with like a towel and make sure it's dry. That was probably the first. And my other story, my favorite player in the league at that time was Dennis Rodman. Like I love this was like wedding dress Dennis Rodman. Like book just came out. Like I loved him with all of my being.
Yeah. Why Rodman?
I was a creative. You know, he was super creative. I read his book, and then like I loved Pearl Jam because he was talking like Buddhism. Like I just thought he was like the dopest human being at the time with the hair. But he was such a beautiful like player. So like I would see him like catch these rebounds and like box people out, and he was so passionate about the game. I remember him and Alonzo Mourning had this rivalry. Like he would like try to like slap his butt every time, and like Alonzo he just know how to get under people's skin. But he was so brilliant as a player, and so I loved him. I drew a picture of him in school, like for a class project, and it was like inspired by his book. Anyway, he came to play the Heat. And I gave him the picture that I drew of him. So I was like, Dad, after the game, I was like, Mr. Rodman, I'm a big fan. You know, it's like it was like a huge picture too. I was like, I drew this. He was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm gonna put it up in my house in Chicago. And he had like glitter fingernails. And so he like rolled it up and put it in his purple backpack. And like went back on the bus. And I was like, he knows me. He knows me. I wear my Airworm sneakers. Like I was a huge Rodman fan. Huge.
He was sensational.
But that like kind of started something, though, didn't it? Like the Rodman picture. People started requesting you though.
Well, you know what I was doing before I started working in basketball. I was always in art school, so I was doing gallery exhibitions around Florida and like anywhere I could put my art in. I was selling like greeting cards, like you name it. I was doing it. So for Christmas, I would always create prints of my art and give them to people just as like gifts. And so some of the players like would ask, they're like, hey, I'd love an original, you know, from my house. And so one specifically, I remember Tim Hardaway was like, my wife and I love your art. We love an original. So like I created a piece and they bought it. And I ended up getting a lawyer friend of my family like was like, I'll manage you. In my mind now as an adult, I'm like, of course you would. He's like, give me my cut. Right. So like he helped write a contract. And so like it was cool because I got to learn about the business of art.
That's probably the best thing that could have happened, though, to actually have a lawyer, though.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't know what I didn't know early on. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it was a tremendous experience. And now I look back, I'm like, that was high school.
Yeah, that's like, crazy.
Selling art.
So how did that launch your career into early adulthood?
You know, it's weird because I never even saw that as a career. I just saw it as the thing my mom let me do. And at the time when I was 16, I had 3 jobs. And so I was working at the Heat. I was also volunteering for the women's basketball team at the University of Miami. Because at the time, I really wanted to coach. So I wanted to learn about the game. And I was also a graphic designer for the Miami Herald newspaper. Because I got a summer internship. And they're like, hey, come do this for us. And they paid. That was like a real job. So I would go there to their offices and get to learn, you know, digital tools and get to do stuff for newspaper.
How old were you?
like 16, 17, around that time, 15, 16.
Jamaican for real?
I am, yeah. Absolutely, 3 jobs.
3 minimum.
When I turned 16, my dad got me a car because I think they were just tired of taking me everywhere.
Right,
They were like, you on your own. Yeah. And so it was great, but I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. At the time, I was like, I'm going to coach, but I was like, I didn't ever play the game. So I was like, I just want to learn. And so I met someone who went to Wake Forest that worked at the Heat. She's like, you should look at Wake. I'm like, what is the Wake Forest? I know nothing of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, from Miami.
Right.
And they had an art scholarship, and she was like, we should apply. And I applied there. I wanted to go to Georgetown because Alonzo went there, and I loved Coach Thompson. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go to a D1 school. And I just thought that was cool. I had no knowledge of DC. It's like, I didn't care. I didn't know what I was going to be a major in. I just wanted to be around basketball. And when I went to Wake, I applied, and every other place that I applied for gave me the scholarship, like sight unseen. They saw slides, this is old school, slides of my artwork. And they were like, oh, this is great. Here's some money. Come on in. Wake was like, nah, we want you to come visit us, fly here, stay in a dorm with someone who won the scholarship. It was a girl from Anchorage, Alaska. I didn't know they had people in Anchorage, Alaska. Wow. And so I got to go to like a frat party. Like it was very much like I walked into a whole other
So you
world.
had like your he got game moment.
Kind of.
Right. They were already interested. They was like, now we reel her in.
Yeah.
Come on.
But then they were like, you have to interview with every single person in the art program. And then after that, they gave me, it was like a 75% scholarship to go there. But I felt like I had to prove myself. And because of that, I was like, nah, man, that one means more.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up at Wake. And every summer I would go back to the Heat and volunteer. Was the draft, free agency, putting together scout reports to learn more of the business of basketball. And the Miami Soul, the WNBA team they had for a time, also launched at that time. So I got to kind of work with them and like help them. It was really just a cool experience, but I still didn't know what it was going to be. And so I ended up being a communications major at Wake. And then my senior year, I was like, boom, this is it. We doing it. We're going to work in the NBA. That was the goal. Yeah. Not really coaching anymore. So I think I was talking to Bob McAdoo, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, McAdoo.
He was an assistant for the Heat. And I remember telling him, like, I'm going to be a coach. And he was like, a man won't respect you because you've never even played his game. And not even like as a man, but like period.
Right.
And I was like, that kind of makes sense. Like I get that. And it didn't dissuade me, but I was like, it just made sense. And I didn't really have the heart, for coaching. And so I was like, all right, well, I still want to work in the NBA because I like the sport. So I applied for a management training program in Secaucus, New Jersey. And I had like Pat Riley and Alonzo Mourning write letters of recommendation for me. I was like,
that's a recommendation.
Right, like you got this job.
Oh yeah, that's a wrap.
That's
a wrap.
You in there.
Yeah.
And literally I applied, I did the interview, and then they called me and they're like, Melissa, we loved you, great interview, you come highly recommended. However, we're a business and you're too creative for us. So we're not gonna give you this opportunity, but thank you. Then I was like, wait, what?
Too creative?
Too creative.
What does that mean?
Because, creative people think outside the box and they don't stick to the plan on the street.
Well, what I learned and now know for fact is the NBA really stood for nothing but attorneys in a lot of people's minds. It's not, but it's not a bad thing. So, like, if you think about it, Stern was an attorney, Adam Silver's an attorney.
They both were,
but so much of the NBA's business is licensing and rights. So their whole business is broadcasting rights and licensing and marks, and so that's what they do. And so at the time, for whatever the job was, that's what they were looking for. I was not that. And so I decided, like, all right, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now, so I'll probably just stay in school because that's what you do.
Around what year was that?
This was like 01, 02.
Little did they know.
Yeah, and so I said, well, I'll just stay at Wake. I was in the comm department. They love me. I was like, well, I'm good here, and I'm going to just kick it another couple years, get this master's, figure out life, maybe teach because I enjoy teaching. And I went for the interview with the dean of the department, and I knew everybody. Like, I worked for like, they loved me. And I did the interview, and the guy was like, yo, Melissa, everybody loves you here, and we think you're using this as a crutch.
Oh.
And I was like, I mean, what you mean? What you mean? And he was like, well, we really think you're destined for bigger and better things, so we're not going to give you this crutch to fall back on. So we are not going to allow you.
You get the most creative turndowns.
I hate that shit.
Heard him a lot.
I was like, huh? It was like, yeah,
We love
nah.
you, but you're too creative.
Yeah, no.
Everybody loves you, but
You're
we think
too
you use it as a
good.
crutch.
Yeah, we're not gonna let you in. And so, but I'm a huge believer. I'm a woman of faith. Everything happens for a reason.
That's a
100%. And
Write some
so
of these down. These are good breakup lines. Too creative. You really like
Wait a minute
it,
for
man.
him because it usually comes.
Oh yeah, we're going. No, turn around. Go back. I didn't mean to interject. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry.
You want some more? Oh yeah. Go straight for the heart.
Get some of the Bussitdown.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I need to bust it down.
You should really make that though.
Right?
Somebody should.
Yo,
make
edit that out.
We need.
We about to get creative.
Man. But that was it. And so a woman in the communications department, an assistant, was like, Melissa, have you heard of this T3 program? I'm like, well, what's that? Because at this point, like, I'm not really desperate, but I have no idea what I'm going to do. And she was like, it's an internship program at Turner. And I was like, what's Turner? I'm from Miami.
What's Turner?
I don't know what Turner is. I know what CNN is. I know what Cartoon Network. I don't know what Turner
The
is.
Almighty?
Right. And she was like, so she explained like, oh, the networks, Turner Broadcast. Oh, okay. And I wasn't even a big TV watcher at the time other than basketball.
Wait, was your dad a WCW fan?
Well, he was, but
Did he knew?
He absolutely knew. Yeah, absolutely knew.
TNT.
But all they said was send us your talent in a project. And that was the creative brief to get the job. And I was so intrigued by that as an artist. I'm like, send us your talent in a project.
I'd be like,
That's all it said.
Super open-ended.
It's super open-ended, and they didn't tell you who you were going to work for. So, like, they probably had 6 interns throughout the company, but they didn't say, hey, send us a Cartoon Network project or a CNN project. You would send them the project, and then based on what they received, they would decide where you would be placed. Or the people who were recruiting for interns would look at them and be like, oh, we like that one. And so it was really interesting. That's cool, but it really made you think about how to sell yourself, you know, in a different way. And so I decided initially I was going to make a black Powerpuff Girl that looked like me.
Nice.
And she was going to have a briefcase with my slides in it, with my artwork, because that was my talent. And that was my project. I can't sew for shit. So I decided to buy the materials. Like, it was horrible. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. So very quickly, it shifted, and I was like, well, what could I do to sell me? So I was like, I like to write creatively. I had my artwork. And so I thought about making a TV guide all about myself and my brand. And I was like, oh, what does that even look like? So I was like, a TV guide. And they were like, yeah, T3 TV guide.
TV guide. For those that don't know.
For those who don't know.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you didn't know what you wanted to watch, you had to buy a book to tell you what was going to be on tomorrow at 6.
A thick book.
Blows my mind now. And so I made this magazine, and I would make, like, I put creative writing samples in it. I had my resume in it, all different types of stuff. And at the end of the day, they reviewed it, and TNT Marketing said, you sold yourself so well to us. We think you would do a great job of selling our content to consumers.
Whoa.
Boom.
And that's how I got my first job in marketing. I never took a marketing class in college. Wow. It's even more ironic when they're like, oh, no, this was great because you sold yourself.
That's all.
And now when people ask me, like, I want to get into marketing, I'm like, how are you selling yourself? You saying you can sell the hogs, but
Make a TV guide.
how are you selling you?
Right.
Yeah. But I didn't even know enough to know. I didn't know what branding was, but I really branded myself through that project, and that was the beginning of my career. So all of that stuff kind of laddered up to that. But I was selling myself as like the NBA on TNT, and I had me as a ball girl for the Heat as a picture, or Turner Classic Movies, and I had me as like Elizabeth Taylor and Cleopatra, like random stuff, but kind of funny. They were like, they got to know my personality through it.
So you ended up selling yourself into a new career.
Into a whole different world.
Wow.
Away from sports, actually. And it was interesting. So it was 2002. I graduated college and I moved to Atlanta and started working at Turner as an intern. But I made no money as an intern. And so I called up Jay Sable. Made no money. They didn't like to pay me back then, you know. And so,
those internships.
Internship. I mean, but they were critical. They were critical.
We're not paying you.
We're not paying. I mean, they paid. It just, you know. I had bills real life.
You grown now.
Exactly. And so I called up Jay Sable. I was like, do you know anyone in Atlanta? And he was like, I know the equipment manager, a guy named Wally at the time. And so he connected me with him. And my first year in Atlanta, I was a ball girl mopping up sweat on the court for the Hawks.
Back at it again.
Yep, at Phillips Arena.
That was early 2000s, right?
Yeah, it was the year the All-Star game was in Atlanta.
Oh,
Nice.
So that
perfect
year,
time.
and I mean, had no clue going into it. It just happened to be when I graduated and moved here.
Look at God.
And so won't he do it? And so I literally was like working in a task force during the day for marketing TNT and how to figure out how to market around Atlanta for the All-Star game.
I was like, you were a cop too?
No, not that.
SEAL Team 6.
at 8 o'clock.
So funny. And then at night, I would work every game for the season. And then when the All-Star game was there, I got to work on the court for every game. Like, it was the coolest experience.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Like, totally full circle.
Wow. Wow. How long were you with Turner?
I worked that year. I left for a year to go to graduate school in London.
Yeah.
Because they offered me a job to stay, but I didn't really want to like settle down just then because everyone there was like real settled. And I was like, and I really I did study abroad programs a lot when I was in undergrad.
Okay.
Oh,
And I just wanted an excuse to live abroad for a year, like fully abroad, not like at an American school. So like I went to Central St. Martin's College of Art and Design in London, but it was a great 1-year master's degree. I didn't have to take a GMAT. Like I didn't have to take any of those tests. It was all essay based. What? Blows people's minds. And it was a 1-year master's degree. I know.
That's what they doing over there?
It's what they doing over there. But the irony, it's like people are like, oh, you went to graduate school in London. And I was like, I did. Yeah.
It was crazy hard.
And it was the best.
Don't even try it. It's
But
hard.
it was the dopest experience. And I wanted to focus on brand strategy. They're like, write your dissertation on branding. I was like, okay. And there you go.
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. And I worked at Turner's UK office. I actually quit Turner altogether. Met someone at Turner's CNN, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East office. And that turned into
How you put that in?
all of that?
all of that in one job. Yeah.
The rest of the world. Oh yeah, one. One department.
One department. And the woman who was leading that up ended up getting a job in corporate social responsibility. And I didn't realize at the time, but at Turner, all of the community work that they did in the London office came out of Atlanta, which was super weird. So it was like, how do they even know what happens? And I'm like, oh, well, all of our CSR work happens in Atlanta. So they created a whole division in the UK to really link business and the community there separately. And so I met with the woman when I first got there, and then she got promoted quickly thereafter. And I remember reaching out to her after I found out. I was like, congratulations, if you need an intern. She was like, yes, I have no head count. Come. I was queen intern. I intern everywhere. I'd be like, what you need? I'm with it.
Wow.
And that was it. So I did that full time. I did my grad studies full time. And I wanted to figure out how to brand myself. And so my goal while I was in London was to meet Damon Dash because he happened to be there launching like Armadale vodka or something way back in the day.
That was trash.
It wasn't that Bussitdown Vodka. It ain't that Bussitdown though.
And it was like,
It was big.
and they were doing Rockaway, they were doing all that kind of stuff. And so I ended up meeting him and his creative agency. Like it was such a weird opportunity, but it was just like whatever I could segue myself in while I was there, I did it. And at the time, I'm an only child, and my mom was older and disabled. And so when I finished my program in London, I kind of had to come back closer to her. She was in Miami, but I wanted to be closer. And I called my people at Turner. They were like, hey, we'd love to have you back. So I ended up back at Turner. So I was there 11 years in total from the time I started as an intern until I ended up getting laid off, which was a whole other situation.
Oh, when they did the whole merger thing? Or
No, well before all of that. And so while I was there, I had like a number of different jobs. I worked from Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, HLN, TC. I think I worked for every brand.
Oh, y'all got beef?
Oh,
you can air it. Okay, I'm just
no beef at all. It was the best experience ever. Best experience ever. In my last job at Cartoon Network, they asked me to sit on a task force, not as a cop.
Shooting people?
Yeah, there were a lot of task forces. So.
Okay.
For this digital health and wellness startup they wanted to launch, and every mentor I had was like, "Don't take that job."
Why?
Because Turner sucked at launching new businesses. Every time there was a new one, like they would do okay, but like after Ted Turner like created CNN and Cartoon Network, they had other smaller businesses, but they never were like the same level of success. And other than Adult Swim, that was one that was major.
Fire.
But digital businesses, it wasn't the core business of Turner. It was cable. And so I was like, but I've worked in every other network, and it was intriguing to me because it was like the beginning of streaming and like going over the top and creating, an app from scratch and looking at the quantified self. So if you had a Fitbit or a Fuel Band and you walked 10,000 steps, and it was so what? So
I remember steps were big.
Steps were huge, but it's like, let's make content to tell you what to do now that you've walked these steps. And so I was like, that seems interesting. So against everyone's feedback, I took this job. It was a VP of marketing and content for this brand, and we called it Upwave. Upwave. No one's ever heard of it, but it was a really dope brand.
Nobody's ever heard of it?
So we launched it, and it was alive for about 6 months, and then
it died.
No, the CEO of Turner, who was a big champion of it, retired or left the company. And the CFO of Time Warner, the parent company, came to be CEO. So it was before any merger happened or any sale happened, but we were the last business started and the first one cut.
Damn.
And so after being there 11 years, I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter, and they're like, guess what? You getting laid off. And no one could believe it. They're like, I was the person they would send to go out and recruit people because I was intern turned VP.
You're like the golden child.
Pretty
much.
Were
the one.
And they were like, you can't leave. And I was like, I'm a house at this. I'm like 8 months. I'm huge. I was like, I gotta have a kid. Like I'll figure the rest out. And I had some severance because I was there for so long. I had to lay off my team and say my last day was supposed to be like June 12th. My daughter came May 31st, and it was like, well then I'm out. And God bless, peace. And that was it. And so that was my end of my time at Turner. It was probably because I was pregnant, I couldn't worry about it.
Yeah,
I was kind of like, my husband at the time was like, we gonna be all right, we gonna figure it out. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I had my daughter, and literally 2 months after I had her, I ended up going to a draft party at the arena, Phillips Arena, as a fan. With a girlfriend of mine, like, 'cause I love basketball. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I ain't doing nothing. I'm home with this kid. I ain't got no job. Let me go to this draft party.
Friday.
I ain't got no job. Right. It's free.
Right.
Yeah. Probably get some free drinks, some food.
Bussitdown Vodka's gonna be there.
All of that. And so I remember going to this draft party, literally just walking around, and I run into one of my mentors, Steve Coonan, who was the president of TNT when I was an intern coming out of college. And when I was mopping up sweat for the All-Star game, his son was an honorary ball kid. He was like, look out for my kid. When I got my job at Upwave, the one that all my mentors, he was the main person telling me not to take this job. Oh. Main one. And I see him and he's like, hey, heard you had a kid. And I was like, I did. Great to see. I didn't even think he'd be there.
Hooked up, right? Yeah.
Not at all. He was like, hey, I want to introduce you to some people. So I'm like, all right. So I'm in like jeans and a t-shirt. I'm chilling. He walks me around and introduces me to every senior level executive with the organization at that time. They're all like, we've heard so much about you. We can't wait for you to start.
Start what?
Okay.
Start what? That was my question. So at the end of the night, he was like, I know you love basketball because I've seen you mop up sweat. I know what you do. You're great at brand building. So one of the projects we worked on while I was at Turner was rebranding Court TV to True TV. And so he was like, I would love your help in building a brand here at the Hawks. And I was like, went to grad school in London. And I was like, cool, I guess. Like, I still wasn't even looking for a job at the time, but I was like, what do you
Did he have
need?
you in mind, or you just being there was like, hey, hire her?
Right.
He'd already told people about me.
Yeah. Because they were saying they've heard about it.
And I wasn't even in the room. I had no idea.
See, that's...
And so he was like, well, can you sit in on some meetings or having design conversations around rebranding the uniforms? I know you do creative. You're an artist. Would you mind just sitting in on some meetings? Okay, cool. So one meeting turned into 2, turned into like 5. And then he was like, well, you probably should consult with us or something, right?
Like, you working for free again?
Yeah, probably. And I was cool with it because I was
some hours here.
I was like, this is just awesome. Like, who gets to sit and design uniforms for? Yeah, I'll sit in on meetings and give my perspective. And so I started consulting. And then a couple months later, he was like, I'd love to have you on board. And so I started as a VP of brand strategy for the Hawks. My daughter was born in May. I started in September full time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the irony that I learned after the fact is when he left Turner. So I think he left Turner like around the time I had my daughter, maybe right before. He had a no poaching policy in his contract. So if I didn't get laid off from Turner, I probably couldn't even have the job I have now because he couldn't have hired me. So like when I say everything happens for a reason, I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'm just a vehicle. I'm just here for it. So that was exactly how it all happened. And so I very quickly every year.
Praise dance moment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, literally. But the irony was 2 weeks after I started consulting officially is when we had our whole like big racial crisis when Danny Ferry and the disparaging remarks and we had to get on new ownership. And so it was like the world shifted right in front of me because it was like he apologized. I was like, you weren't even here. You just got here yesterday. It was a whole different world. And so very quickly it was learning crisis communications and, being involved in what are we going to do for the city and getting more involved with community work and helping figure out the brand. So even defining True to Atlanta as our brand mantra kind of came out of that time and that work. But it's been an amazing evolution. So now it's been fast forward 7 years going on 8. And I'm like, we are such a different organization than we were back then. Yeah. It's completely different. And so
a lot of that creative is in there too.
Yeah, but to know that, I was able to have a hand in that and, every year my job shifted. We onboarded new ownership and And then they were like, hey, we need help at CMO. And I was like, who? And he was like, I'd like for you to consider it. And I was like, no, I'm good. It's fine. And I was like, why me? And he was like, because you don't care. And it was one of the most interesting conversations. And I was like, because I don't care. He was like, well, yeah, my mantra for everything is I just want to make dope shit. That's what I'm here to do. My team knows it. I was like, whatever it is, if I don't like or love it, then I'm like, we could do better. And so for that, he's like, people ask me now, it's like, why do you want to be CMO? And he said it. People either have a perception of power or what that means or how much money you think you're going to make or have this title and ego.
It has chief in the name.
Yeah. And for me, it was never about any of that. And he was just like, because you don't want it, I know you're going to do an amazing job because that's just who you are. It's what you do. And so, I worked really hard and got this opportunity. But, since then, it's no looking back.
Wow.
So, okay, you're an artist. And then you said you helped consult with the uniform. Did you make the MLK uniforms?
I was at the tip of my tongue.
Because that was dope. When I saw him, I was like,
I'm still waiting to.
I was like,
I want one so bad. I missed that.
You missed
They
that.
have it like a shrine
You
there.
missed
Like
it.
they
They
have like a
sold
whole
out so
thing.
quickly and everything.
Yo.
Wait, can we get some from you? Are you the
mean-
I go on the website every time. And
They ain't
I'm
coming
like,
back, bro. They gone. They gone.
forever?
Don't say that.
So when the year that I got promoted to CMO, the first meeting I had was with Nike, and they were like, "Okay, what do you want your city edition to be?" And so every year we had always honored, MLK on MLK Day, and we would do the gospel choir and everything that people grew to love. And I was like, we got to honor Dr. King more than like a day.
Yeah.
So I was like, what if we were able to create a uniform based on his legacy?
Because when I saw him, I said,
Yeah.
I missed.
And so we worked with the King of State. Well, it was my idea initially.
Yeah.
Sat down with the Nike team. They worked on the design, but we had to negotiate with the King of State in order
Okay.
to make it real. So like now,
I'm picturing you like
They're like-
drawing it. Like,
I mean, I had some ideas, but I mean, the Nike design team, they will get much props because a lot of that was their inspiration. But we told them, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, there are a lot of things that are important in the city. But for example, the shrine in the building, which is our center court from that season, it was a stained glass. That wasn't even on the uniform itself at all. We were like, how can we extend the storyline of what we created and still talk about, whether it's faith and Dr. King. And so we created that internally on my team, and it was like beautiful. And then we got as far as we've ever gotten in our history of our organization wearing that uniform.
We did not lose in those jerseys.
Man.
We did not
that's why-
lose.
that's why we
Yeah,
bring 'em
and then the Pope blessed it the beginning of the season. So after we came up with it and we designed it,
The Pope blessed
Pope-
it?
was
the
like,
Pope-
I want one.
the Pope requested. So literally, I get a text from this Nike, this NBA person. He was like, the Pope would like he is very inspired by MLK and would like, one of your MLK
A
uniforms.
Pope? You mean Olivia Pope? Brother, what you mean?
Olivia Pope done blessed them.
They filming? They filming?
And we worked with our partners UPS, and we got it delivered to the Vatican City. And literally, the Pope said, and then they texted me the pictures. I'm like, this is the illest thing I've ever seen.
right.
It was like,
Because it was him opening
Pope.
it.
Yeah.
Now I'm mad I didn't have one.
So why
I was
isn't
mad
it coming
before.
I
back?
didn't know it was like
So
never coming back.
City Edition for the NBA and for Nike is a annual campaign. So some teams do a little different. Like the Heat had multiple years with the same design, but flipped the kind of colorways.
Right.
We've done every season a new look. So that was a 1-year agreement with us and the King of State. And
Because you got to go with the King of State. That's,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. I mean, it wasn't like we're like, hey, you
Makes
have it
sense.
forever. So
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
got
all
it.
right. So when we got to the playoffs, we didn't even think about playoffs when we initially talked about it. And players were like, we weren't in the playoffs. We're like, all right, let's negotiate these playoffs too.
They were
And
hard, though,
they were
too.
amazing.
So they're not coming back. They're not coming back. But can we get one? I know you got. Can we get
I
one?
mean, I ain't got one.
Extra large.
How do you not have one?
I have one.
Oh, okay, that's what you're saying.
I don't have
So
any
you ain't got
extra
none.
ones.
Oh,
Not currently.
man.
We'll talk off the air. That's
So
what
if
we're
we
doing.
see those on like eBay or something like that.
I would cop one ASAP.
They were
ASAP.
hard.
Doesn't mean they won't come back in the future at a later date. But like right now,
Right.
there's no plan.
Right
Yeah.
now.
So every season. So like for example, last season we had the yellow, and that was our 75th anniversary. They had this mixtape mashup. So Nike did that with all teams. So it was take all elements of your history and put it together in a city edition. So that's what that was. And so every we try to flip it every year and have something new for the fans.
Awesome.
So what's real quick? What's in the future, in the near future for the Hawks?
In the near
That you can
future
say.
for the Hawks. We got a lot of cool things on the horizon. I'm not privy to discuss many of them right now. But this summer we have a summer community summer tour that we do with kids, and so in the past we would always do camps and clinics for pay only, right. And they're like week long, and they're really great. So if kids want to get more involved in basketball, we have alumni come out, sometimes players. So we're gonna do those as well. But we saw an opportunity last year, especially coming out of the pandemic. We're like, man, there's so many kids who either been homeschooled for a long time. They're trying to just be out, and so we really like, how do we engage with kids in other ways? We just found a bunch of other community programs happening. We said, let's just give them a Hawks experience for a day or a couple hours.
Yeah.
And so our community basketball programs team are going out, and they have a whole summer tour plan, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, dope.
You have a ball girl program yet?
No, there's no ball girl program, but we have our Lady Ballers clinics, which is dope.
Nice.
So we're doing a lot for the ladies in basketball.
Awesome.
And, it's really just trying to inspire kids to play. Like I have a daughter, she's 7. She only wants to be on her iPad inside all the time.
So speaking of playing, this whole time you said you had a very thirst for the game of basketball, but never played. Have you played since? Like, have you actually played a game?
Oh yeah,
Period.
I played a game, but I've never played like on a team.
Oh, of course, right.
So I've never been
Just
like organized. Yeah, I was.
She's been around.
Of course, I started a basketball club in high school.
Oh.
So I thought I was really doing it with the artists. Like, basketball and art. Be like, yeah, no. But yeah, like I enjoy
Basquiat
playing.
ball player.
But yeah.
Legend has it. Did you keep any of the balled up Pat Riley papers that you used to pick up when you would throw them out the huddles?
I feel like my mom probably threw them away when I was in college or something, because she moved. I kept everything. But I had, every time Pat would make a little play, I just knew I was going, I'm going to use this one day. I don't even know what he was writing. It didn't even matter. I just felt like I was connected to it.
He would just
under the bench, I had a whole binder full. No, I didn't keep those, but I have player shoes and stuff. So it was like Harvey Grant. Be like, like Horace and Harvey, yeah. Or like a Magic Johnson signed ball, like random things.
That's cool.
Anything from Jordan?
No, I wish.
The picture of Jordan playing with the Wizards and you're behind.
Me mopping up sweat. Just mopping up I was like, this time I see people see Michael Jordan, look behind him. Then you'll see me.
That's me right there. That's Michael Jordan.
No. You gotta zoom in.
Up the sweat.
Exactly.
You don't see me?
You gotta zoom in.
Yeah. Just like that.
Now our time is extending a little bit, but I do want to ask about the book. So you wrote a book, correct?
I did.
Now tell us about it. What is it about?
I wrote it for my daughter, just in case anything ever happened to me. She got my story from me, because my mom passed away before my daughter was born. I had all these questions for her, and I'm like, man, I wish I knew from her. Yeah. So I decided to just pretty much write my story and my journey and everything that I've experienced, but things that I've learned along the way, just to help her. She gets, she's 7, so I'm sure she won't read it till she's probably 17. But hopefully then it would just resonate. And so it's called From Ball Girl to CMO. And that's it. It's just my story. And it's been such a blessing because I wrote it for her. But the number of people who've read it and said it inspired them or helped them, I don't really like to read a lot. So it's a real quick book.
Was it hard? Was it hard to
quick
write?
But potent.
Yeah, quick but potent. It was super hard. I said I was going to write it. I'm just going to do some blogs and I'm going to be done with it in 6 months. And it was 2 years later, ooh, I'm going to write a book. And then 3 years later, I'm still maybe I should get some help. And so I found a local publisher, Mind Matters Publishing, who was awesome. And Renita and her team there, and they helped me so much. Just in kind of getting my vision out and book design and book pricing and things that I would never think about, how to get it on Amazon. And so once I had their support and a pandemic happened, which stopped the world long enough for me to actually finish it, that's when it launched. And launched September 2020.
I asked if it was hard because it sucks. You're going to have to write a part 2.
I'm not an author. I am an author, but I'm not an author.
You still got a lot to go.
I feel like I do.
You're going to have some more questions. You're like, Mom, why did it stop when you 35?
No,
you get part 2.
You will have to write it once we win this championship. Because you would have been integral in this winning.
Correct.
Of this ring.
Correct.
So that's when part 2 gonna come out.
Bet.
I mean, you get a ring too, right?
Heck yeah. Yeah. What? Better.
And by then we'll be on the branding team, so we'll get one too.
Yes.
There we go. Boom.
Yes.
Bet.
Yes.
Bet.
So that
Every State Farm look better.
There was
Did you just walk in and be like, we gotta do better?
Nah, man, that was a total team effort. Like
$190 million.
Real quick. Smooth 200.
I know a guy.
we worked hard on it. We had a really great team of people working on that. But like even working with Killer Mike, so I got to work with him on the deal for the swag shop to bring that in the building. And Mike is awesome and his team. And we have like a bunch of other ideas, but one of the things I'm most proud of is our fan experience and our game experience team.
Yes.
Like people have come from other teams, whether even like ex-players who do broadcast, and they're like, y'all do it the best here.
Facts.
Fans have said it, but it's like when people come in and I would travel to other teams and go to their games, and I'm like, man, but it's not just being good, it's being good for Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Because you can't pick up our building and put it anywhere else and have it make sense. You can't take our game pres anywhere and have it make sense.
Facts.
So it's really the idea of true to Atlanta as a brand mantra from the time we created that to everything, even to our merchandise and our retail. Like we want to be next level and fashion forward and really focus on, we call our target audience next generation Atlanta. So even the artists that we bring in to perform at games, it's like we had Amaretta as soon as she dropped a song, and it was like that was important.
You're like,
we are Atlanta.
Yeah.
Everybody else may not be, but we are.
Right.
I went to the last game of the season against the Wizards, and that was my first game year since I was like little, and the time that I had there,
It's so much fun.
it's so much fun.
Lit.
I kept looking around. I was like, yo, this is a fucking club. Like, what is this?
That's the energy.
When the game is over, you're like, we gotta leave?
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt.
It really should be like a after game situation within the arena.
Yeah.
Like you gotta, the 100 section, the club seats, it's like, oh, this is also your ticket to after the game club popped off, or whatever.
Court just turned into a dance floor.
Right. 2 Chainz come out of nowhere. It's like, oh,
He was there the whole time, sitting courtside.
Right. 2 Chainz be there all the time.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It was an awesome story. We're reaching the end of the ATL of the podcast. Sorry. And at the end of every podcast, we like to highlight someone in the ATL or Metro ATL area that has been doing something great while representing in a big way. And we call it the ATL Salute. And when we have a guest on, we hand that responsibility over to them. So, Melissa, is there anybody you would like to give an ATL salute to?
Absolutely. I thought about this and I said, so who would you salute? And one of my good friends who actually was like an intern at Turner when I was there just starting out too, her name is Jamaica Ferrell, Ferrell. She just got promoted last week to be the Chief Revenue Officer for the Atlanta Airport.
hey.
Which is huge as a sister. Deputy manager, killing it. She's fly with Jai. Like, she runs the money of the airport and everything else in between. And started out in marketing and was there, but I'm so proud of her. Incredibly proud. Grady baby, born and raised ATL. Just like doing amazing things. And so I would like to give a salute to my homie, Jai Ferrell.
Oh,
that's what's
Shout
up.
out.
Shout out. Now, for our listeners who might not be following you, how can they follow you and track your growth and how you progress onto other things?
Oh, man. Well, anybody can follow me on Instagram, and I respond. I'm on there for real. It's at Melissa M. Proctor. And also, I have a website if anyone wants to check out the book. I have my artwork on my website as well. It's melissamproctor.com. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is good too. Twitter, I'm on everything. But, IG is the way.
That's the way.
Got you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
Then we got to link up at the game.
Yes.
Hey, next season, we going to do it.
Sure.
Atlanta podcast out at the game.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there.
I'm sure.
With MLK jerseys? Wait.
That's what I'm talking about. What are you thinking? You thinking? That's what I'm talking about.
There was some rose water.
Rose water?
There was some rose water.
Boom, I got you.
Rose water. Rose water.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been awesome.
Thank you.